Alright guys, as I was mentioning, titanium allergy is a very rare occurrence, but it can happen. Another thing you have to look out for is peri-implantitis, secondary to infection of the gum around the implant itself. And the management is as per periodontal disease. So what can happen is that if an implant is placed abnormally, resulting in a large amount of force being placed on the implant, this can cause it to fail as well too, because remember the forces have to be dispersed correctly. But if you have force being applied to one specific area incorrectly, that can cause the implant to fail. So just an oversight or a little refresher. Remember that bone has an outer periosteum, central endosteum, and then beneath that you have the an outer periosteum, an inner endosteum, and between the periosteum and the endosteum you have the compact bone. So that's just an aside to just refresh your memory, and we're going to go into alveolar bone just now. So implants themselves can be classified via designs and where they're placed as well too. So endosteal implants, the device is placed in alveolar bone. So and it only transects one cortical plate. Now the question is, do you remember what cortical plates are? So I didn't remember at the point in time of doing this lecture, so I decided to go in to delve into it a little bit better. So let's just zoom in a bit, okay? So please remember, alveolar bone consists of an alveolar process and the alveolar bone proper. Alveolar bone is formed from the intramembranous bone formation during the formation of the mandible and maxilla. Alveolar bone and the periodontal ligament, as well as the cementing, supports the tooth within the socket itself. Okay. So as I mentioned, alveolar bone is made up of two things: alveolar process and the alveolar bone. The alveolar process of the two jaws houses the developing tooth buds, and then it also houses the roots of the teeth. The alveolar bone proper, lines the tooth socket and provides attachment for the periodontal ligament as well as the tooth in itself. So the alveolar bone proper is involved in anchorage more so. So the alveolar bone proper provides attachment for the sharpies fibers from the periodontal ligament, and it comprises two main types of bone: bundle bone and lamellar bone. So bundle bone, which is bundles of collagen fibers which are calcified with the bone to provide strong attachments between the bone and the tooth. So bundle bone actually merges with a lamellar bone, and also you must remember that lamellar bone in itself is pierced by numerous small foramina, which allows nerves and blood vessels within the alveolar process to reach the periodontal ligament tissue. So it has many small crevices or small foramina, and it allows nerves and vessels within the alveolar process to reach the periodontal ligament tissues. Just to repeat, it's perforated bone, and it's usually called a cribriform plate. The alveolar bone proper lines the socket, and it eventually thickens, and in its coronal margin becomes the alveolar crest. Okay, so the next type of bone we're going to come across in the alveolar bone is the alveolar process, and this has the cortical bone, which is the outer part, and the cancellous bone, which is the inner part. So remember when I said the endosteal implant transects one cortical plane? As you can see in this diagram, there's one cortical plate here and another cortical plate here. Okay. So cortical bone is thinner in the maxilla than the mandible, and it's thickest in the mandible adjacent to the premolar and molar areas. It's composed of lamellar bone and a Haversian system, which is involved in maintenance and remodeling. The alveolar process has nerves, blood vessels, bone marrow, and contains adipose and osteogenic cells and hematopoietic cell tissue. The alveolar bone process fuses with the cortical bone of the alveolar bone proper, fuses with the cortical bone of the alveolar process to produce the alveolar crest. So the ABP fuses with the cortical bone of the AP to produce the alveolar crest. Note well, in a healthy person, the alveolar crest is 1 to 2 millimeters below the cemented enamel junction. A landmark that we must remember is the interdental septum, which is located between the two adjacent sockets, and it's mostly cortical bone. So The interdental septum is cortical bone, and towards the apex it becomes more cancellous bones. So along the arch you're actually seeing here, you're seeing the cortical bone, and in here you're seeing cancellous bones as you approach the apex. Okay. So along the arch, there's actually a variation in the amount of cancellous bone present. So anteriorly, you have not a lot of cancellous bone, but when you move posteriorly, there's a lot more cancellous bone. So that means that you're seeing more cortical bone, or there's a closer proximity to cortical bone anterior than there is posteriorly. Okay. So as I mentioned before, implants can be classified via an endosteal, subperiosteal, transosteal, as well as epithelial. So the endosteal is when you place the implant in the alveolar bone or base of basal bone, and it's placed through one cortical plate. One. Subperiosteal, it lies beneath the periosteum, but it overlies the cortex. Okay, so it actually doesn't go. It doesn't penetrate as deep as the endosteal. Transosteal is the implant actually penetrates two of the cortical plates, 1, 2 here. So this is an example of a subperiosteal implant, as you can see here. So as you can see, the implant is not so deep within the cortex as you would see for the endosteal. Sorry. This is transosteal. As you see, it goes straight to the two cortical plates here. So you have a post pass through the jawbone. You have gum tissue covers. There's a metal plate which joins the post together. There's a lower jawbone. So you can see that the implant traverses both cortical plates. Epithelial implants they're inserted into the oral mucosa, and they're hardly used. So note well, implants must have similar modulus of elasticity for the bone for them to actually not fail, meaning they must have the ability to evenly distribute the stresses that they experience during mastication. So they must not be, ridiculously different from the actual bone tissue, because what can happen is that you would have a situation where there could either be a foci of stress, which results in failure of the prosthesis. So the aim of the implant anchorage in itself is to mimic that of the periodontal ligament fibers, which attach the tooth to the bone. So how is this done? This is done through mechanical retention and ankylosis between the implant surface and the bone. So what can we do as dentists to encourage this kind of reaction? So you have high yield strength. When the load is placed on the implant surface, there must be minimal permanent deformation, right? So as I mentioned before, that the implant itself must be placed correctly or else it will result in a failure of the implant due to incorrect dispersion of forces. Okay? Sorry for the sniffling again. Implants must have a high modulus of elasticity, and this is once again is to disperse forces to the surrounding tissues. So it must also have a fracture toughness, meaning that it must be resistant to fractures or damage in itself. Okay, what are the parts of an implant, dental implant? As you can see here, there's a crown, there's a screw, there's an abutment, and a fixture. So the crown or prosthesis seen here, screws via cement or precision attachment. This is a screw, this is an abutment which connects the fixture by the screw, or the abutment connects the fixture by the screw. Connects to the fixture by the screw. And the fixture itself engages bone. It is not usually seen. Please note that the fixture looks like a screw, but it's not the screw. The screw is right here. Okay? What's the properties of a good implant? No, you don't want to put an implant into a person's mouth and it starts to rust. So, one, it must have good corrosion resistance. It must be biocompatible. Low in toxicity or low iron toxicity, because remember some some elements that be very strong and very, very corrosion resistant, but they actually release ions over a period of time. This can result in slow metallic poisoning. The implant must also have good a good osteoinductive surface, which speeds up osseointegration. Sorry, and remember, osseointegration is a very good thing for a dental implant because it allows the formation of strong bone around the implant, facilitating this implant being successful. Okay, sorry. What types of materials are used? So you have metals. It's the same materials that are used for crowns on a whole. So you have your noble metals, which would be gold, palladium, platinum. You also have stainless steel, tungsten, titanium. I see a lot of titanium prostheses used. There's also ceramics, alumina, hydroxyapatite. There's polymers such as polymethyl methacrylates or PMA, or this PTFE, as I was mentioned before, polytetrafluoroethylene, which is used in grafts, like for instance the femoral popliteal grafts, those kind of things. Because I see titanium used very commonly, I'm going to mention about titanium. So titanium is good because it's low weight, high strength, strength to weight ratio. The mode of elasticity is actually half of stainless steel. And as you remember, you should be rattling it off now. Elasticity mode of elasticity, or the modulus of elasticity, is the number that measures an object's or substance's ability to resist being deformed elastically, i.e. stretched. Okay, so it forms a protective layer itself over the actual titanium, and this protects it from further oxidation. There's also, you can also use titanium alloys, and they have similar properties. However, they have higher strength and the mode of elasticity than the pure titanium is actually higher as well too, and they still form the oxide layer as before too. So it encourages osseointegration. Implants can be classified. This is an example of a titanium screw. Implants can be classified based on their attachment mechanism. So in this instance, you see there is osseointegration, and then there's fibrointegration. So the left shows osseointegration and the right shows fibrointegration. The osseointegration is when the bone is, as I mentioned, the bone is incorporated into the implant, and it promotes a stable base for the implant to remain implanted. Fibrointegration is when the implant is encapsulated with soft tissue, and it resembles the periodontal ligament fibers of the natural dentinal apparatus or the tooth. So most times it seems as though we prefer the osseointegration. I hope this helps and hope this clears up anything. Any questions, you can leave a comment. Okay, thanks guys.